The coffee shop was nearly empty that gray Tuesday morning when Sarah Mitchell counted the crumpled bills in her wallet for the third time. $4.73. Enough for a small coffee and maybe, just maybe, a muffin for her daughter Emma's breakfast. The weight of another bill-juggling month pressed against her chest as she stood in line, mentally calculating which utility could wait one more week. She'd been a single mother for 2 years now, ever since David left without so much as a forwarding address. The factory job barely covered rent, and the second-hand Honda had just died in the parking lot yesterday, adding another impossible expense to her growing list. At 32, Sarah felt ancient, worn down by the endless cycle of work, worry, and wondering how other people made it look so easy. The man in front of her was fumbling through his pockets with increasing desperation, his expensive suit somehow at odds with his flustered expression. His leather briefcase lay open on the counter, papers threatening to spill out as he searched for his wallet. "I don't understand," he muttered, checking his jacket pockets again. "I had it this morning." "I know I did." The barista, a teenager with blue-streaked hair, tapped her fingers impatiently on the register. "Sir, there are people waiting." Sarah watched as the man's face flushed red, his embarrassment palpable. She recognized that feeling, the shame of not having enough, of holding up the line, of being the problem everyone wanted to disappear. In his case, it wasn't poverty, but a forgotten wallet. Yet the humiliation looked remarkably similar. Before she could talk herself out of it, Sarah stepped forward. "I've got it." The man turned, surprise written across his weathered face. He was older than she'd first thought, maybe 60, with silver hair and tired eyes that suggested too many sleepless nights. "Oh, no, I couldn't possibly." "It's just coffee," Sarah said, pulling out her 4 crumpled bills and sliding them across the counter. "We've all been there." The barista rang up both orders while the man stared at Sarah as if she'd just offered him a kidney instead of a $3 cup of coffee. "I don't know what to say." "This is incredibly kind of you," Sarah shrugged, trying to ignore the mental calculation of what this meant for Emma's breakfast. She'd figure something out. She always did. "Pay it forward someday." The man extended his hand. Robert Chen. Sarah Mitchell." His handshake was firm, grateful. They stood awkwardly by the pickup counter, waiting for their drinks. Robert kept glancing at her, opening his mouth as if to speak, then closing it again. Finally, he said, "You have no idea what this means to me today. I'm supposed to be at the most important meeting of my career in an hour, and I was starting to think the universe was sending me a message." "Bad morning?" Sarah asked. "Catastrophic morning," Robert laughed without humor. "My mother had a fall last night. She's okay, but I spent all night at the hospital. Didn't sleep, forgot my wallet in my other jacket, and my phone died an hour ago. I've been running on fumes and sheer stubbornness." Sarah's heart squeezed. She thought about Emma, about what it would be like if something happened to her. "I'm sorry about your mom. I hope she recovers quickly." "Thank you." His voice softened. "You're very kind, especially for someone who looks like they might be having their own tough morning." Sarah must have looked startled because Robert quickly added, "I'm sorry. That was presumptuous. I just noticed you counted your money several times, and I recognized the look of someone carrying the weight of the world." I wore that expression for years. Instead of being offended, Sarah found herself smiling sadly. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's been there." Robert collected his coffee from the counter. "Thank you again, Sarah Mitchell. I won't forget this." Sarah watched him leave, his expensive shoes clicking against the worn linoleum, and wondered what his story was. Then she grabbed her own coffee, skipped the muffin, and headed home to get Emma ready for school on an empty stomach of her own. That evening, she sat at her kitchen table, spreading peanut butter on bread for dinner, when Emma asked, "Mommy, why do we always eat the same thing?" "Because peanut butter is your favorite," Sarah said brightly, hiding the fact that it was also the cheapest option in her nearly bare pantry. "Jessica's mom makes her chicken nuggets and mac and cheese." "Well, aren't you lucky that you get something even better?" Sarah forced enthusiasm into her voice, but Emma's disappointed face told her the 7-year-old wasn't buying it anymore. That night, after Emma fell asleep, Sarah cried quietly in the bathroom, wondering how long she could keep this up, how many more sacrifices she could make before there was nothing left of herself to give. The next morning started like any other, rushed, chaotic, running behind schedule. Sarah was trying to fix Emma's ponytail while simultaneously packing her lunch when the sound interrupted everything. It started as a distant hum, then grew louder, more insistent, until the windows rattled and Emma ran to look outside. "Mommy! Mommy, there's a helicopter!" Sarah joined her at the window, her heart pounding with inexplicable fear. Helicopters didn't land in Maplewood Heights, the kind of neighborhood where people fix their own cars and borrowed cups of sugar from neighbors. The sleek black machine descended onto the small patch of grass that passed for their front yard, wind whipping through the tired flower beds. "Stay inside," Sarah commanded, her mind racing through possibilities, none of them good. Had something happened to her parents? Was this some kind of emergency? A man in a suit emerged from the helicopter, followed by Robert Chen. Sarah's mouth fell open as Robert approached her front door, his expression serious but warm. She opened it before he could knock, too stunned to speak. "Good morning, Sarah," Robert said over the dying whir of the helicopter blades. "May I come in?" Emma peeked from behind Sarah's legs, her eyes wide as saucers. Sarah managed a nod, stepping aside to let Robert enter their tiny living room with its sagging couch and water-stained ceiling. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance," Robert began, glancing at Emma with a kind smile. "You must be Emma. Your mother told me about you yesterday." "I didn't," Sarah started, confused. "You mentioned needing to get home to make breakfast for your daughter. Small detail, but I'm good at remembering the important things." Robert turned back to Sarah. "I'm here because yesterday you helped me when you could barely help yourself. You gave me coffee when you probably couldn't afford to. You showed kindness when the world has given you every reason to be bitter." "It was just coffee," Sarah whispered, aware of Emma listening to every word. "It wasn't just coffee." Robert's voice grew thick with emotion. "That meeting I mentioned? It was to finalize the sale of my company, a tech startup I built from nothing 40 years ago. Yesterday morning, after my mother's fall, after forgetting my wallet, after every little thing went wrong, I was ready to walk away from the deal. I thought it was a sign that I was making a mistake." He paused, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. "Then you helped me, a stranger with your own struggles, who still found it in her heart to help someone else. You reminded me why I started my company in the first place, to make technology that helps people, to create something that matters. You gave me the courage to walk into that meeting and close the deal." Sarah's hands trembled as Robert placed the envelope in her palm. "The sale went through last night for $800 million. Robert continued quietly. "I've spent the last 12 hours thinking about what to do with that number, and I kept coming back to you. Sarah, to the woman who gave her last $4 to help a stranger. Robert, I can't—" "Inside that envelope is a bank check for $500,000, he said firmly. "Before you refuse, let me explain. It's not charity. It's gratitude, and it's an investment. I looked you up last night. I hope you'll forgive the intrusion. I know about the factory job, the broken-down car, the apartment you're 3 months behind on. I know you're trying to finish your nursing degree online at night after Emma goes to sleep." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as Robert continued, his own eyes glistening. "I'm also establishing a scholarship fund in your name at the community college. 5 full-ride scholarships, every year for single parents trying to better their lives. And I'd like to offer you a position at my foundation, helping us identify people like you, people who need a hand up, not a handout." "But that's a conversation for later." Sarah looked down at the envelope, then at Emma, whose young face was trying to process what was happening. "I don't understand. Why?" "Because 40 years ago I was you," Robert said softly. "A single father with a sick child, working 3 jobs, eating ramen so my daughter could have real food. A stranger helped me, once paid for my daughter's medication when I couldn't. I promised myself that if I ever made it, I'd pay it forward 1,000 times over. Yesterday you reminded me of that promise." The room fell silent except for Emma's quiet sniffling. Sarah pulled her daughter close, unable to form words through her sobs. "I have one request," Robert added, smiling through his own tears. "Keep being kind. Keep being the person who helps strangers even when it costs you something. The world needs more people like you, Sarah Mitchell." That afternoon, after Robert left and the helicopter disappeared into the clouds like something from a dream. Sarah sat with Emma on their worn couch, holding the envelope that would change everything. But more than the money, more than the job offer or the scholarship fund, she held on to something more valuable, the reminder that kindness matters, that compassion echoes in ways we can never predict, and that sometimes the smallest acts of humanity create the biggest ripples in the universe. "Mommy," Emma whispered, "are we going to be okay now?" Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead, tasting salt and hope and the promise of better tomorrows. "We were always going to be okay, baby. But yes, things are going to be a little easier now." And in her heart, Sarah made a promise to herself. She would pay it forward, every single day for the rest of her life. Because that's what kindness does. It multiplies, it grows, it transforms the world one cup of coffee at a time.